It's all about understanding how to motivate other people, understanding their needs. How do you get from here to there when you're not in control? At the end of the day, when you're controlling, you're not in control. They're in control.
You're like the breeze. You're just trying to blow them in different directions. Welcome back to this episode of the Law of Relevancy podcast. I'm Cord Zoen, your host, and today we're joined by George Swetlitz. He is the co-founder of Right Response AI, a reputation management platform powered by AI. George, thank you for joining us.
Yes, great to be here.
I was telling you before the show started, an hour ago, I was talking to an entrepreneur, and I was telling him, if there's one thing, if you had to only spend your money on one thing for these chiropractic clinics that he's looking to roll up, you would spend your money on local SEO and review management and response management for those local clinics that you're running.
Yeah, 100% agree. 100% agree. You know, when you're running a business, whether it's one location or 200 locations, every business exists in its own little competitive environment. You compete, every chiropractic clinic that fella is going to own at some point operates in an area where people are making a decision. And he might have 2 chiropractic clinics that internally operate just as well. The mechanics of how they run. But one might do very well and the other one might do poorly just because of the competitive environment that they're in. And so that's the challenge with location-based businesses, is understanding, where am I? Where do I sit today in that environment? And what are the right goals and how do I go about achieving those goals or getting there?
And if you're doing a good job, one of the easiest things you can do is get people to leave good, authentic reviews about your business.
Yeah, no, that's right. There's a lot of things that you can do, and some of them are really hard to do. Building a super high-powered website with lots of authority is hard to do. Getting someone to leave a great review and then responding to that review is a lot easier. And it matters, just as much, if not more, for a local-based business.
Yeah, and especially in the business that he's in, which is chiropractic. I mean, you're giving somebody immediate relief with their issue. In your previous life in the audiology business, you're doing the same thing. You're adding quality to their life. They're delighted. Why wouldn't they leave you a good review?
It's a great question, and part of it is, especially as you get larger. When you have your own business or you run a group of 5 or 10 locations, you're in there every day. You're involved. And so you can make sure things happen. As your business scales, you depend more and more on other people. And that was the challenge that we had at Alpaca, was as you get bigger, you have to pull things in centrally. And as you pull things in centrally, you lose the intimate knowledge of what's actually important in those locations. And so that's the challenge. How do you actually pull that off? And so there are very different problems, but at the end of the day, as you said, somebody comes into your location, you delight them, and you want them to tell the rest of the world. Right? And that's kind of what we help people do locally. Because the reality is the world is changing, right? 4 years ago, you got review requests, but you didn't get them every day. Now there's so many review requests that you have to stand out. When you're sending a request, the days of saying, "Thanks for coming to our business. Would you leave us a request?" No one answers those anymore. No one leaves. Not no one, but the conversion rate of those is much lower. And so when we talk about what we do at Right Response and what makes us different kind of in this review ecosystem, is using AI to personalize. So rather than saying, thanks for coming to our chiropractic office, would you leave us a review? It says, Dr. Jones was really happy that you came in for an adjustment on Thursday. Thank you for 6 months of loyalty. It would really help us to get the word out if you left us a review. If you'd click here, we'd appreciate it. And you can personalize those requests at scale and increase the likelihood that those review requests are going to convert into reviews. And that's the first step in that journey, in that flywheel of building your place in the rankings.
Yeah, that's essential for a local-based business, whether you're a restaurant or a chiropractic center or a medical clinic. It's essential. And the metrics are, we are using the internet the vast majority of the time on these devices. And when you search for something and you scroll down, the very first thing you see typically is the map.
Right.
And ranking on that map has a lot to do with how engaging you're being with people reviewing you saying thank you. And one of the things I really liked about learning about Right Response was that it's it seems like you can also add little nuggets like thanks for coming in. We hope that just a reminder, like happy hour is every day from 4 to 7. It's like,
Right. Right. Yeah. No, so that's the thing. When you think about AI, and people struggle with this all the time. AI is so powerful, yet when you try to do something, people will often get frustrated.
Yeah.
And if you're dealing with a chat, the longer you're in the chat, it seems like the dumber it gets.
Yeah.
Right? And so the nice thing about review requests or review responses is that they're very short.
Yeah.
It's a paragraph. And so it's relatively easy to use an agentic approach to put relevant information together to generate a nice response. Okay? So, for example, we have a property manager that has built a series of facts about their locations. So if somebody said, "Oh, I love the location at this particular property," the response sees, "Oh, it's a mention of the location's great. So let's put into the response, yeah, there's a Starbucks 2 minutes away," and it to make it real for people.
Obviously, this is something you're passionate about. In your previous life, you had in your career, you were associated with Alpaca Audiology, and you were a big part of growing that organization to over 200 locations. What inspired you to now become an entrepreneur in a tech space like this?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we struggled with these exact issues at Alpaca. We wanted to grow organically. A lot of money on pay-per-click, social, social ads, things like that. But the gold standard is how much are you growing just organically through SEO? And that was a real challenge for all the reasons that people understand who are running these location-based businesses. And one of the things that we noticed was that the businesses that we had that ranked higher also had better performance with pay-per-click. And that's because when you attract people through an ad, and then they actually go read the reviews. And if your reviews aren't great, or if there's somebody else that's higher in the rankings, someone just migrates to them. And so essentially you're just spending your money giving them another customer.
That's a very important point. I remember we worked with a pool service a few years ago. We helped them grow to the largest pool service in the whole country. And when they came to us, their average ranking was like a 2.9. And we knew that our strategy had to get to a paid search. It made sense for them to have a component that was very paid search, because when people have an issue right now, paid search works great, right? When people are researching a purchase they're going to do in the future, SEO is very powerful. It's very good. But when people have a need right now, like a green pool that just turned green over the weekend, we knew that they were going to want to use paid search. The challenge is that when you have a very low reputation, you're paying 2 and 3 times the amount that somebody else with some great reviews. And so it was a big part of our paid search strategy to work on their local strategy and their reputation management strategy, because as we worked on that and got them up to 3.5 and closer to 4, we were able to see paid search, the cost per click go from, $13 a click down to $7 a click.
Right, exactly. And so the problem that we had, the further compounding problem we had in Alpaca, was that we had 200 clinics. And so when you're trying to execute at 200 locations, you need tools. So we go out, we try to find tools, and the tools, and these are the same tools that exist today out in the marketplace. They want an annual contract, and they're very expensive on a per location basis. All of these things. And then you see a feature that you really need. Well, that's in the other package that you have to buy. And when someone's asking you to spend, $200 a month on a location, or $100 a month, you have 200, that's $20,000 a month. Yeah. And you just can't afford to do it. So fast forward, we sold Alpaca, and ChatGPT is announced in 2022, end of 2022. We roll into 2023, and I started this development team maybe 10 years ago, and I got the team together and I said, I think we could solve the problem that we had. Like, we could build this. We could build an application from the ground up using AI to solve this problem. And so we spent about 1.5 years building the platform, and we launched in midway through 2024. And so that was that's the origin story of Right Response.
And how's it going?
It's going great. It's going great because there's a real, when people understand that they're able to personalize response, personalize requests, understand what's happening better in a way that's kind of affordable, it's exciting. And it's interesting to watch what people do. We have a ferry company in Greece that's one of our customers, and they must have 30 facts they have built around all elements, because people just ask a million questions. And so rather than try to answer those questions one by one, they've just built the AI to answer those questions in a very kind of methodical way, and it just makes their lives so much easier. And that's what this is all about.
Yeah, well, one thing I really appreciate about this conversation and talking to you is you seem to have a really strong grasp of like the very meta level, the very high level of like where things are moving and how it's impactful. And it seems like that translates down into very tangible and tactical tools. How has your education, getting your MBA at Harvard, like where did you pick that up? Is that more of the college of doing this in life, or is it a big part of the education that you garnered along the way?
Well, I think the education gives you certain tools and skill sets, but my kind of career has progressed. I originally started in operations and manufacturing, running factories, so a real appreciation for the steps that are required to actually put out good product, quality product. And then I moved into consulting, and it's all about understanding how to motivate other people, right? Understanding their needs, and how do you get from here to there when you're not in control. At the end of the day, when you're consulting, you're not in control. They're in control.
And you're so like the breeze. You're just trying to blow them in different directions.
That's right. And so, you have to manage that. And then at Alpaca, I went back to operating, but where I was, in charge. And then you find out, when you're CEO, it's still not about you. It's still about enabling all of the people in your organization to achieve something. And so over the years, I've just operated at all different levels. And so that's what I love about, I love software just because it's so scalable. But what I really love is helping enable people to grow their businesses. And sometimes I'll say things in meetings that, I'm not the CEO, right? I'm just a vendor, right? So, I have to always keep that in mind that, it's their business to run, and I'm just enabling them to do that better.
Well, I think a big part of being a part of a startup and creating a tool like what you guys have created is figuring out how you're going to market. And it looks like a big part of the way that you've decided to go to market is to be very affordable and also to work with agencies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we try to be available for everyone, right? So we have very large clients with hundreds of locations, and we built the platform to accommodate brands and regions and different kinds of user levels and things like that. But we also built it to work for, from a cost perspective, with someone who has a small business that can't afford much. Things are tough, especially in today's economy. It's scary in some businesses right now. And so people are very cautious about spending money. And I think our usage-based model, and we can talk about that, but that's kind of a whole different thing that we did. Most software as a service, especially in reputation management, is a set fixed fee. And it really survives on kind of this breakage concept, right? So
Right.
you can do up to 100 reviews a month, but the average person does 10.
Yeah.
And so the average person is subsidizing the people that do 300, right? And that's kind of the typical model. Well, AI comes along and you can do really interesting things, but you can't do them for free, right? And so you have to be able to charge people for using more sophisticated functions. That's the whole nature of AI. So we rebuilt the entire underlying structure to be usage based. So if you have 10 reviews a month, you pay for 10 reviews a month. If you have 100, you pay for 100. If you want to use our map rank tracker, every time you click, you pay 50 cents or whatever it is. You don't have to buy 50. Everyone wants $50 a month. Every SaaS software company wants $50 a month. So you want to buy a map rank tracker tool, they want $50 a month. Everyone wants $50 a month. Well, you can't afford that. So we just broke that model. And when you join Right Response, you have access to the entire platform, and you just use what you want to use. And that's kind of the beauty of it.
I think it's great. I think ultimately you end up with clients that stay longer because it feels fair. If you're not using it, you're not getting charged. If you are using it, you're fairly getting charged. Who can argue with that?
I agree 100%. And as we develop more sophisticated things like go look at our last 1,000 reviews and tell us our biggest problem, or tell us the locations, and those are things that we can build with AI, but that might cost you a couple bucks. And if that's important to you this month because you have a problem, go run the report. And next month, when you solved your problem, don't run it. Don't pay for it. It's very much that kind of model. It's kind of a democratizing thing. This thing that I wish that I would have had when I was CEO. If I would have been able to buy this model for my 200 locations, I absolutely would have bought it.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I remember when I first started seeing this heavily used, there was a company called Podium, and they're still around. And they ended up branching off into some point of sale via text message and some text messaging platforms. But they're where they grew really quickly and were one of the biggest in getting reviews was that they were very quick about asking people reviews after they received the service and or during the process of them receiving the service. They were very quick with it, and they also have a sequence of things in case they didn't get a review, they would do it. And one of the discussions I had with them years ago was this idea of gating feedback, where you get feedback, but you try to ask them first in case you find out they're not happy with you. And then you only ask them to leave a review on Google or wherever, or Yelp or whatever, wherever you want them to leave a review. But you only ask them if they would have given you 5 stars. And they weren't using that approach when I was having this discussion with them. And they said that their research showed that actually, if you ask everyone, it works out a lot better because you end up getting a lot more reviews. You learn about problems. You get to show people how you actually deal with problems as an organization and solve, customer service things. So it looks like you're a real company and that you really care about people a lot more. And it also doesn't look fake. If somebody only has 5-star reviews, it can come across very synthetic.
Yeah, it's a complicated problem because it's one of these things, the race to the bottom, right? And so, um, gating you talked about is actually illegal in the U.S.
Well,
I mean, it's against Google's terms of service,
yeah,
and it's actually illegal,
right.
right? So, everyone takes some risk when they do that, and the big platforms won't. But smaller platforms still do. I run across it all the time when I'm doing competitive analysis. We send out a text, "Are you happy?" Yes. Then they ask for the review if you're happy. Illegal. So, um, I
Just
don't
for
know. Yeah.
clarification, what does that law say? Like, so if we're looking it up, what does the law actually tell you that we're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do?
You're not supposed to provide differential access to the review to the review platform, right? So you're not supposed to have a step, that gate, right? That's between that customer and the Google review. Google or any review site, any review publisher is supposed to be able to have a fair assessment of what customers think. And that was kind of a rule that was promulgated by the FTC last year. Now, whether this administration cares who's left in the FTC, I don't know. But at that time, it was something that they were taking very seriously.
Well, I think it's something as consumers that we would want. We would want that rule to be in place because we want to know if people are not having great experiences, and we want to know if they are having great experiences. It helps
Right.
inform us all, and we all, if you have a business, you should be striving to deliver a quality service or product.
Right. No, absolutely. And there are things that you can do, because the counter argument is someone might be willing to give you negative information if they didn't feel like it was going to be broadcast over the internet. Right? Some people don't want to just broadcast, but they want to tell you. So you can create your screen. It's kind of, this is what we're doing, where they can leave the review on whatever source they've decided to leave the review on. Or at the bottom it says, if there's something you'd like to tell us privately, click this button. So it's not gating because the person can still click and go to the review publisher. But if they want to say something privately, and you're kind of suggesting that there's another route to telling us privately, then they have that option. And that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with doing that.
Yeah, and a lot of times that can happen because maybe you don't like making a scene. You don't want to leave negative feedback. In my case, my Google username is my first name, last name. And so like I'm not Bulldogs 1981. It's
Right.
first name, last name. So if somebody's actually researching me, I don't want them to see that I had a bad massage at Massage Envy or something like that. So
Right.
too much pressure, shave your arms. I don't know. Uh, like so I do like that private option, and it's really important to have that.
Right. Yeah, agree. And as long as you do it in a way that's transparent and fair, it doesn't violate anything and probably gets the same, gets to the same end point anyway.
Very good. Well, let's go back to yourself. I love to hear entrepreneurial journeys. Tell me how you climbed the ladder at Alpaca. So you're working there. You help grow multiple locations. What are the things that you're doing or that you're seeing as operating within an environment like that helped you grow within the environment and helped it succeed and stand out to where you could eventually be running the organization?
Yeah, so the story's a little different. I mean, I was a consultant for years, and the consulting that I did was really around driving performance improvement, and we would work mostly with very large companies. Um, and the idea was really that the source of knowledge is within the company, right? That was the idea behind our consulting practice. That the problem is not that people in the organization don't know what to do. The problem is that it's very difficult to get things done in big companies. And so the role that we played was gathering up these good ideas and then helping them fight the good fight to get those ideas implemented. That was the idea. And then I also started doing that with private equity firms, with their portfolio companies. And so I ended up kind of working with a particular private equity firm, and they were doing this consolidation in the audiology space. And so I joined the board, and and was kind of doing the kind of thing that I did kind of at the board level. And then the company made a big acquisition. It was kind of an acquisition where we more than doubled in size. And then COVID came. So it was like this double whammy, right? This big acquisition followed by COVID. And it was just a very complex, uh, difficult environment. As you can imagine, in audiology clinics, you're dealing with people who, the average age is 70.
You got to have a lot of patience even doing that because they can't hear you half the time when they're not using the product. So it's frustrating when people you have to repeat yourself.
Yeah, so it's a very, very complicated environment. Then COVID comes, and obviously disproportionate impact on older people, and we're staying at home, and eh, lots of issues. So they asked me if I would step in as CEO and to help usher the company through this very trying and difficult.
But what are you doing? Like, obviously, you seem like very intelligent. You've got this very laid back style. What do you think was the key to your success in being even asked to do that or to be in that role?
I think it goes back to what I learned as a consultant, which is it's not about me. It's about assembling a great team and helping that team break the barriers to getting things done.
Yeah.
Right? And it's very difficult for many CEOs, but the key is really, I would say to someone who worked for me, they would want to do something, and I might not think that was the right idea. I might think that there's a better answer. But the problem is the minute I say do what I want, now the monkey's off their back, right? Because
Right. It's
right,
you're responsible
I
for
made
it.
it. I made the decision. So unless I thought it was make or break, like unless I thought that the risk of a bad outcome was really big, I would, and this is something that I would do that I would engage in lots of conversation with them. I would help them understand, like we would go through data together. We would really explore it. And I would say, this is what I would do based on this data. But that doesn't matter. What do you want to do? How do you read the data? And they would say, and unless it was a make or break kind of thing, I would say, okay, well, we're going to do what you want to do.
That's right.
And they would do it, and sometimes it would go their way, and sometimes it wouldn't. But they were accountable because it was their decision.
Yeah, that's a very astute leadership skill you have there, and I believe in that a lot. I've worked a lot on leadership personally myself over the years. I mean, read books, gone to classes, really tried to trust. You know, go back to like this, the core. What is this? What are responses? What are online reviews all about? And it's about building trust, and it's throughout all your interactions, especially when you're leading an organization. Trust is so important, and so I love the saying that the organization will move at the level of trust within the organization between the people who are there. And it sounds
Yeah.
like you know all about that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was, especially trying to get through a period like COVID. I mean, if you thought you knew everything, you were bound to fail.
Yeah. Well, George, it's been great having you on the show today and learning about y'all's approach to how to do local listings, how to respond, reputation management monitoring, and how you've decided to go to market. Where can we follow you and learn more about your thought leadership and what you guys are up to?
Yeah, well, the best place is really our website, right? responsai.com. We have a blog section, and we put our best thinking there.
That's great. Well, we'll follow you there. We'll check it out, and I encourage everyone who's listening to this to look at it. It's a great looking website. It looks super easy to use. The tool. It's been fun learning about it, and you can follow us anywhere where podcasts are found across all of the social media feeds for the Law of Relevancy and Bake More Pies. George, thanks for joining us.
Great to be here. Thank you.
All right, we'll see everybody the next time.